Welcome everyone. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can save time and money doing a one-person brake fluid flush. So stay tuned. Today we're going to be working on my 2015 Toyota Tacoma, but this procedure will basically work for virtually most vehicles, whether it be Toyota branded or something completely different. A large portion of what we're going to be doing today is going to transfer over to virtually every vehicle. So let's get going. So let me show you a couple of the supplies that we're going to need. One thing that you're going to need to know is if your vehicle takes .3 or .4 brake fluids. Figure out which one it is that you need, and we're going to go ahead and use that. For today's vehicles, most of them will take a .3 fluid. There is quite a few out there that do take .4s, more of performance, Europeans, and that kind of stuff. For our Tacoma, we're going to be using a .3 fluid. We're going to need a bottle of some type. Doesn't really matter what you're going to use. Clear is helpful, but it's not important. It's just some type of empty bottle. I grabbed myself this brake fluid filler. We use this for sucking up fluid, and I'm going to show you what we're going to use that for in a minute. And last but not least is I bought myself way too much hose, but I need some for the shop, so we're going to I got some extra, so no big deal. This is, I'll put a picture and a link in description to everything that we're going to be using today. So 3/16 inner diameter with a 5/16 outer diameter, and I got clear just so you can see. It's not a prerequisite. I mean, you could use black hose, but the clear is handy. Just you can kind of see what's going on inside there. So let's get going. All right, so here we are underneath the hood. We got our master cylinder, of course. So first thing we're obviously going to want to do here is let's go ahead and take off the lid. Now, there's different style lids on this Tacoma one here. It just pops off, or you just twist them off. Inside here we have a screen that's basically stopping us from getting into there and stopping dirt from getting inside here. We're going to need to remove this here quickly. This one here, just going to use a little screwdriver and just get it past the little connect, or the little lock clips there to remove that. We'll just put that off to the side as well. And now we are going to end up by using this sucker. What we're going to want to do here is try to remove as much of the dirty fluid out of the reservoir before we begin the flush. So the reason we're doing that is obviously if it stays dirty in here, it's just going to take us longer and longer until we get clean fluid basically through the system. The more we can get out of here now, the easier it's going to be. I'm just going to go ahead and just put this in here and suck out what I can. I have an empty container, and we're just going to squish that out. So yeah, I've already gotten, that was actually quite a bit. That was a good amount. Now, if you can, be aware, try not to spill the brake fluid. But if you do, it is really not that big of a deal. Just make sure you don't get it on your paint. If you get it on the paint, just try and wash it off quickly or wipe it up. If you didn't know, brake fluid is water soluble. So unlike petrochemicals or whatever you want to say, or like oils and that kind of stuff, that you need a cleaner to clean them up. The brake fluid you can actually clean off just with water. You can get some hot water and just wash it off, or soap and water would work perfectly fine. So it looks like I got about as much as I can get out of there. Go ahead and get your brake fluid, and we're just going to fill this right up. Alright, I got that topped up there. I'm going to go ahead and put my little screen back in. And we'll go ahead and just place the cap back on for now. And we'll just remove all our stuff. And we're going to go to the wheels, and we're going to start getting ready and get prepared here for the bleed. Just before we do that, we're going to need to prep our bleed bottle. So all I've done here is taken the cap off of the bottle, drilled 2 small pilot holes, and then took a larger bit and just drilled out a larger hole. I think it was a 19/64. That way we can drop the hose right into the bottom of the bottle, and we can start our procedure. Take your nice clean bottle and fill it with about 1 inch or 2 of fresh brake fluid, and install the cap and drop that hose right into the bottom. Well, we have our bleeding bottle built. We have the master cylinder cleaned out. We got some new fluid in there, and we're ready to start bleeding. Typically, you're going to want to start with the furthest wheel away from the master cylinder. So usually right rear, left rear, right front, left front. That's the typical pattern. We're gonna bleed, basically one wheel at a time. Let's go ahead, let's get under the vehicle. Obviously, if you're at home, you may or may not have to jack up your car, or you may or may not have to take off your wheel. Whatever is gonna work easiest for you to do, get that prepared, and let's go ahead and let's get to the back brake here. All right, we are now at the right rear wheel cylinder. We're gonna go ahead and pull off the little rubber cover or boot, whatever you wanna call it, plug, and get rid of that guy. And what we're gonna do is take our hose and bottle, and we're going to place it on the bleeder screw. Now what I like to do here is just crack this first, and by that I mean loosen it. So I quickly just loosen it, make sure it's loose, and tighten it again. Then we're gonna go ahead and slip the hose on. I'm gonna make sure that is firmly on there, nice and tight. I have seen people put zip ties on there. I think that is probably overkill in my opinion, but if you wanna go ahead, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to do that. And I'm gonna go ahead and loosen this about, I would say that was about a quarter turn. As you can see, we already have fluid coming out of there, and we're going to go ahead and jump up into the vehicle and start the bleeding process. What I'm demonstrating here is about the speed and the tempo of how we're going to depress the pedal. So down and rest, and up and down and rest and down. I think I did about 13 compressions. We can see right away when I press the pedal down, we got a little bit of air right away. And then here on the main bottle, you can see the air coming out. And if you watch enough times, you'll see that the air will continue basically for a couple of times, then it will stop, and then it's just pure fluid coming out, and you can see the level rise. And we are flushing the brakes. Now, of course, depending on how dirty your fluid is how many times you're going to have to repeat this process. The one thing that you're going to want to really pay attention to is how many times you're actually stepping on the brake pedal, because we only have enough fluid that's in our master cylinder. Obviously, we can't just endlessly, press the pedal because we're going to run out of fluid. So you might want to just count and then recheck your master cylinder basically, every certain amount of times. That way you know how much fluid you're using per however many times you're going to press the pedal. Now that we've bled some of the fluid out, we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove the hose off of the wheel cylinder. Now you can just quickly grab the end, pinch it, and just pull it out of the way. Make sure you don't leave it hanging down. All the fluid that is in that hose will obviously run everywhere, and then you got to clean it up. So just to avoid cleaning it up, just make sure you pinch the end, hold it up high, it will drain into your bottle, and we can repeat that process, and we can move on to the next wheel. And obviously we're going to need to do all 4 wheels, and however many times you think you're going to need to get clean fluid is however many times you're going to do it. It's going to be different for everybody depending if you haven't flushed it in 10 years or 2 years. You can be much dirtier than others. Go ahead, repeat the process till you're satisfied that you get nice clean fluid. Alright, just before we go any further, I want to take a quick second. If you find this video informative, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out, grow the channel, and keeps me stoked for making new videos for you. Please, thank you very much. The process for the front calipers is basically exactly the same. We'll go ahead, loosen the bleeder screw, attach the hose, and we're going to go ahead and pump the brakes yet again. Make sure we check the master cylinder. As I'm pumping, you really can't see that fluid rising, so we are definitely taking some out and flushing the system. Alright, so last few tips that I have for you. Make sure we're going around, we're doing all 4 wheels. We're always checking the brake fluid in the master cylinder, make sure it's topped up. Make sure you're tightening all your bleeder screws. And before we road test the vehicle, start the vehicle up, make sure that you have a nice firm pedal. In case something happened to have gone wrong, you missed something, whatever it is. We want to make sure that the vehicle is safe to drive. If you have no brake pedal for whatever reason, don't want to get you scared, but just make sure we're not driving it, moving the vehicle, crashing into something. Obviously, it's very serious. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope this video helps you out. Consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.